The Board of Education of the Perry Local School District is called to order at 5:45 PM in the Starbucks Center Conference Room. Roll call, please, Mr. Gallant.
Mrs. Foley,
Here.
Mr. Levick. Here. Mr. Roberts is not here. Mrs. Trevsker.
Here.
Mr. Welch. Here.
Thank you. Can we please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Committee report. Are there any
We did not have any.
committee reports? Okay, none here either. Dr. Thompson, administrative updates.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to start my administrative updates by giving it back to our team president, and we have a few introductions, I think, tonight.
I do have a special introduction. Thank you, Dr. Thompson. I'd like to introduce a board member from Wickliffe City School District, Mr. Don Marn, who is here to present something to one of our board members who happens to not be in attendance tonight. We're hoping we could get him online, but he is kind of stuck in a situation, I believe, in a hurricane, so literally. So I think it would be an honor for you to present your award, and on his behalf, we can accept what you're here to share. So Don Martin, the floor is yours.
Thank you. This has been a long time coming here. I have had this since May, but this is an award for Mr. Roberts. He has suffered through 4 election cycles and unless he was appointed, and he's accomplished something a lot of people don't accomplish as board members. 1 term, 2 term, and they get tired of it. Well, he is being awarded a certificate for a 10-year of service. That's unusual too. Board terms are 4 years each. So why don't we have 4, 8, 12, like something normal? No, the Ohio School Boards Association decides to do 5 years like everyone else. So he's to be congratulated. Andy Roberts, 10-year veteran board member for continued dedication and commitment to public education as a school board member. Now that's one of 3,000 in our local area.
Oh, wow.
The Northeast region. I'm doing this because I'm a member of the Northeast region's executive committee. Been on that for about 12 years. And I think he should be congratulated. Anybody who puts themselves in front of the public that often deserves an honor, and this is the least they can do. So I will present this to you, Tiffany.
Thank you very much. I
And,
appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. Congratulations, Mr. Roberts. Just as a clue, I'm a 30-year board member.
I was just gonna ask you.
A little self-promotion, but I was just appointed to the All Ohio School Board.
Oh,
You were?
congratulations.
2023, yes.
Wow, that's exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very
We'll see you at OSBA.
Yes.
We'll see you there.
A gold apple, I think. Thank you.
Congrats to you.
I,
Thank you.
if you don't mind, I'd like to stay for the meeting.
That's up to
I'm
you.
gonna
Sure.
really get into it.
You're allowed to stay for the meeting. I mean, why not? You haven't been to enough, right?
Space.
Thank you.
Yes, please do. I'm on.
And I have no ID on me, so I left my wallet on the table.
That's okay.
Oh,
Thank
We
you.
know who you are.
Yeah, we know where to find you, especially when you're in your Blue Devils. And congratulations on your new buildings that just opened this week. Very
We
exciting.
missed it, Lou. Saturday was awesome.
I was there.
You were. Who missed it? Somebody.
I don't know.
Okay,
All right.
well, it was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Am I throwing it back to you, Dr. Thompson?
Are you throwing it to Mr. Gallant?
Yeah,
We're playing catch.
Go ahead. Are you
This-
ready?
I'm ready. I just want to mention that we had asked for one of our updates to be from our current CFO as of this moment, Lou Gallant, and Jen Capo's department, the fiscal office, I guess you could say. So I'd asked for an update. There had been some questions and some things on how we are doing business and where we are in this process. So I think it would be important for us to see this update and hear what they have to say. So thank you, Mr. Gallant.
Thank you. So, yeah, so the board has asked me to just kind of put together kind of how we're transitioning with Jen and myself as we kind of combine shift and everything else with fiscal, human resources and business operations. So, so we talked about the succession plan for Jen, moving to this CFO position, really since, for the past couple of years. And actually from when I hired her, Jen, how long ago was that? 7 years ago. I think I told her would probably 2 or 3 years at the time. And so we've stretched that out to 7, but, Jen is a highly in demand, person with her skills. And it's time to kind of, to slide that change over and do some moving around. So we've had this plan in place since we hired her. We've talked to the board about it the last couple of years. So that becomes change number 1. Change number 2 is the board has talked about human resources over the last couple of years. I'll say going back to when Andy came on the board 10, 12 years ago, we talked about HR. And as recently as last year, we talked about, do we hire a person for that? How do we do that and everything else? And then we also have done shared services last several years, and we share with Wycliffe. We do all Wycliffe's fiscal services, and that remains part of what we do. And so how do we enact these changes? How do we put things in place without really increasing cost or personnel? And that's really primarily what this change is about. Back in fiscal year 22, we had 4.2 fiscal FTEs, and the cost to the district was about $410,000 in chargeable FTEs to Perry. We did have some reductions, and we did a hire. So we lost 2, hired 1, which reduced our cost to $323,000 in the department. That was projected to go up to $340,000 this year with cost of insurances and the increases to their salaries. But in making this shift, we're going to continue at 3.2 FTEs. And the cost is going to save about $2,000, and that's FTE charged to Perry. So by shifting me out of the position, Jen into the position, essentially bringing in the human resources and operations, and I'll say privatizing, but that's not a employee, but a contractor. It goes with the savings to the district of about $2,100 for the year. So what are the role and function of I'll call it the position, but the outsource is the human resources, the business operations, mentoring, and legislation support. Go ahead to the next one. Let's talk a little more about human resources. And one more. So in looking at some of the job descriptions that we have, some of our job descriptions go back to 1997. We have 3 different sets of job descriptions that have been done between 97 and 2005. And so in reviewing those, a lot of these duties aren't even duties that we currently do. So we need to take, hey, what are the positions that we have in the district? What's their functionality, and how do we make sure that those are, when people get hired, they know what their job is, not what it was supposed to be 1997, but what is it in 2023? Create a web presence for human resources. We really don't have a dedicated. We show our opportunities for employment, but if you go to some other school districts, they'll have an entirety of human resources on the website. One of the big things is staff support and wellness. If we want to continue to be the employer of choice in the area, we want to dedicate more efforts to staff support and to wellness. And in the wellness piece, and I think I maybe catch that in an upcoming slide. We've missed. There's a metric for the healthcare consortium that we have it in our contracts for both OC and support staff. But by getting the wellness checks and everything else, and making sure that we're going through that, not only is it better for our staff, but there's about a $45,000 savings to our healthcare premium that we can get. We haven't gotten that, but I think we're going to make an effort to make sure that takes place this year. I'm confused, my slide's a little different. Hold on. Staff onboarding, we want to make sure that when we bring new staff in, they understand, what the expectations of the job are, what's the professionalism that we need to have for them. They have to understand our board policies, and not that we don't do that now. Each individual principal, Betty Jo, the departments, all do that separately. But maybe by centralizing, we're setting a clearer message, and that's kind of a priority there. Ongoing staff employment practices that we're following up with employees, which they get hired into the district, and making sure that it's not just hire you, put you in, throw you to the fire, and then kind of let you go. I know the teachers have a great mentoring program, and we have that by contract, but we don't always do that with the support staff as well as we should, and so we want to strengthen that. And I talked about the guidelines, expectations, professionalism, and that's something that is really important. You know, it's harder and harder now in 2023 than it was in 2018, 15 or whatever, to bring in good people. But we need to bring in good people. We need to nurture them. We need to bring them to what our expectations are and make sure that we're doing everything we can for them and for the district. So this is just kind of an initial timeline that we started with the job descriptions, establishing the practice for the buildings, partners to follow for hiring, start meeting with the staff on wellness and initiatives. And this is just for this year. We can't expect that we're gonna have new hiring practices starting on Friday. It's not gonna happen like that, but we just set up some target guidelines that we could follow. We could just kind of set goals for it and look at the upcoming year. So the areas we're focused on job descriptions, staff wellness, and staff onboarding. The next area is business operations. We have the three departments that kind of fall outside, and I have over the years had oversight of these departments, and that kind of then carries with me. So I meet with Jim Smith in maintenance operations on a regular basis. We talk about all his projects. He's coming in next month to talk to the board about what that 10-year plan or 5-year plan looks like. It's usually a 5 years prior, 5 years forward, and meet with him on the bidding and on the maintenance services that we provide, the staff that he has. We'll continue to do that. In transportation, Randy Usher is with us. I don't say full time. He's not shared with Kirtland this year, but he has a dual contract as a sub driver and also as a supervisor. So we hope to kind of look at areas that we can reduce costs. Look at the routes again this year. We've a couple of years, but as our enrollment changes, we're going to run some scenarios this year to look at route efficiency as well. And in the food services, Vicki does a great job, but Vicki and I have had conversations about what's going to happen in the next couple of years, and we're going to look at what's going to happen with our declining enrollment, how we're preparing meals, how we're serving kids, and we just want to make sure not only are we efficient, but we're meeting the needs of kids from a nutritional standpoint. Mentoring process, I'm going to tell you that, go back one more, I was thinking that one comment. Jen is more than ready for the position. I do think that with 19 years here, I could maybe provide some assistance. Eventually she'll stop having questions, but hopefully in the short term, I could help provide some insight to her in that respect. And legislative support, if you go to the next slide, we still have a lot of work to do with that. 2 years ago, we put together legislation with, we do legislation, but we worked with our legislators to work with the public utility tangible personal property tax. Historically, we've gone kind of a 2-year cycle. They gave us a 5-year cycle, and they weren't really willing to do anything this cycle with us. But we only have 3 years left of getting and maintaining that reimbursement. What we've continued to seek in this is a permanent fix rather than a budgetary fix that they give us every 2 years. We can't budget long-term if they're giving us a 2-year fix on 35% of our budget. That has, for the last 20 years, been a big number to our budget that we really just have to hold our breath on. We've had a number of occasions through the years where they talked about, I'm not sure Jeff may be the only one that remembers the time that they said they were cutting it out altogether. and they changed it. Oh, Amy was here. But we can't survive the way we do business if that were to just go away. So we keep pushing it out, but Jack and I have been in Columbus. I don't know how many tens or hundreds of times we go down there just to work with everybody to make sure that becomes a permanent fix. Again, it represents 35% of our budget. Additionally, we probably all heard, I'm not sure, it's been the power plant is in the sale process. It's going to close sometime in the second half of this year, which is sometime in the next 2 months. The 5 plants that were sold to the new company were valued at $3.3 billion in the sale. As they close that and they put a evaluation on what our plant is, that has a huge impact on our tax base. And as we go into next year and we have a reassessment of property values, and I've talked to our county auditor about this, we anticipate there's going to be some legal action taken and some fights with regards to what that valuation is in Perry versus the other 4. And you know, it's hard to say. Somehow their 5 plants have to equal that $3.3 billion. And so we want to make sure that there's 2 nuclear plants and 3 coal plants in the sale. And we want to make sure that the coal plants and the nuclear plants are valued accordingly based on what their output is, what the revenues are, and so that we get a fair value, because that impacts, again, what our revenue base will be for the long term. Protecting our tax base for all future students is so important. So again, if a third of our money comes from the power plant, a third comes from the tangible personal property, there's still a big job to do long term with respect to that. And so that's part of what we're focusing on. And we want to pursue world-class standards, and we can make sure that we're doing that for everybody involved, whether it's our taxpayers, whether it's for staff, whether it's for our students. So and again, I guess another piece that I kind of left out of this, you know, when we took this contract out, we didn't replace that position. It's a shifting of duties. It's so when I count those FTEs, this contract service is actually in that. And so it's actually one less employee if you want to go employees, but it's a contract service. So it's just a shift of duties, focusing on some of the things that I've done, giving Jen an opportunity to focus on things that she has to do as the chief financial officer. But that's really what's happening in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Very, very thorough explanation. I appreciate that. One thing I have a question on the, as you said, the public utilities. We
Yes.
talked about the 2-year cycle versus, so what would the push be for, to increase the length of time to have more stability? And
So our push has always been is that they would codify that reimbursement in perpetuity. When deregulation happened and they changed the valuation of public utilities from the 88% taxable rate to 25%, they said that it would not negatively impact those districts. And so at that time, we were getting about $12 million a year. And that number is down to 8. So they have reduced it. And so what we've been fighting for is 2017, they've frozen it at that level. So because had they not frozen it, we'd be down to about 4 or 5 million. When we go down there, we say, hey, we're not asking for more. We're asking you to honor the commitment that was made when you did deregulation and continue to provide to the school district the funding that they're getting through the kilowatt hour tax. So on everyone's bill, there's a kilowatt hour tax for usage tax that is collected and sent down to Columbus. And when that kilowatt hour tax was put in to offset those public entities, it's now collecting. It was actually meant to collect about 150 million at the time, and it was paid out to all the districts. That kilowatt hour tax now with the rates is collecting at a rate of over $500 million a year to the state. And the payout, there's only 2 or 3 districts, 2 power plant districts, and I think there's 1 other coal plant that is still getting a reimbursement. So they're paying out maybe 18 to $20 million on $500 million that they're collecting on this. And so they can't argue that they don't have the money because they're continuing to collect it and it continues to increase. And that's our argument, and we just want to say, hey, as long as you're, maybe the argument is as long as you have the kilowatt hour tax. We continue to get the reimbursement. But that's what was put in place back in 1997, 98 when they started that, so that's the plan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Thompson, do I actually have to throw it back to you? Okay,
Before you do, I think Mr. Roberts is online now. I might want to say a few words,
Well,
if we could,
can you see us?
pull him up.
Oh.
You're muted, Andy.
I can see you. I just don't want to make you jealous that I'm down in Florida. So I'm so sorry that I couldn't make it there, but yes, thank you. I understand. Thank you very much. Very unexpected and appreciated. So we'll do lunch sometime soon. Done.
Thank you.
And that was for you, Don. He's
Stay
gonna be
safe,
watching
Andy.
you soon.
He doesn't want to do that.
No, stay safe. All right, now the floor is yours again.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Durant, very informative, and I do believe I'm your supervisor here now, so.
Yes, you are.
That's on Friday.
Not yet.
Enjoy that. But, so hey, I just want to take a moment to thank, our community, our stakeholders, our students for what has been, again, a fabulous start to the school year. What a wild week last week was, and, it's just so exciting to get the kids back and to get to work on the things that we do each year, and, I know it doesn't just happen, and it's a lot of work by a ton of people, and, I just want to say thank you and how much we appreciate it. Safety continues to be our #1 priority in this district, and in true form, Safety Week will occur September 5th through the 8th, those 4 days, and that is an ideal time for us to just sit back and have those very important discussions with our students and talk about some of the events that occur, and even the ones that we pray every single day we never have to deal with. And so that Tuesday we'll start with just your general fire drill, and then we'll go into in the afternoon. We'll do lockdowns, evacuation drills, and announce locations and help practice making appropriate decisions and based on the scenarios that are put in front of us. Wednesday, again, lockdown evacuation drills district-wide. Thursday, we start doing lockdown drills in interesting times like at lunch and things when kids are not in their normal classrooms. And we sit down and remember, these are all done with complete understanding from the kids of what's going on, slow it down, talk about situations, answer questions, and just really go through a thorough kind of practice session of these events. And then on Thursday, we'll be doing tornado drills by building. And again, we think it's important to go through these and see if we can execute them in a way. And every time we do this, every year, we learn something. And so we'll have a safety committee meeting and get feedback and look forward to that. So that's the week, the week after Labor Day. That's going to be our focus that entire week. And so might want, if you haven't already done so. Another good news, as Dr. Malcheski mentioned, when the announcement was heard from the Ohio Department of Education, bittersweet. And it was, the 21st century grants were announced. And again, you may recall 5 years ago, we were the only district to have 21st century grants in elementary, middle, and high school. And the good news is that we were once again funded at the high school. They received an award of $850,000 for the next, to be spread out over the next 5 years. We'll be providing after school and before school programming to help our kids based on their needs, which is very exciting. The bitter part of that is that while we applied it to middle school and elementary, this year we're not awarded those funds. And so, we kind of got used to having those 21st century grants at those levels for 5 years, and not to say we won't get them back. We'll reapply, but for now, we're gonna have to go and make a little shift. Another part of the sweet deal is that while we didn't get it, one of our people that we were closely with, the Great Day Child Care Learning Center, that rents space right here, did get awarded a K-6 grant for $850,000 that we'll be working very closely with to serve the Perry students in that capacity over the next 5 years. So great news, and again, it's worth celebrating, because without that grant money, there's a lot of programs we wouldn't be able to offer our kids, and they've been very successful. And I think we're gonna have a bonfire. We're gonna burn down the house tomorrow night. I'm pretty sure Mr. Kellogg is gonna go.
As far as I know.
We're gonna do it. It's actually made without vandalism and everything. I'm not gonna do it. It's 2 weeks. So we have, some of our friendly rivalry schools hanging on the porch there, and this house that Mr. Sunday and his crew of guys built with slats, very creative. I think we get to have that bonfire and that celebration tomorrow night at 8:30 to celebrate the starting of school, have a little pep rally, and get it cranked up for that small little school called Kirtland up the road that we're gonna go to on Friday. And so hopefully I see you all there at 8:30 tomorrow night. And let's keep the momentum, folks. It's been a great start, and that concludes my administrative update.
Was just double checking the time, 7:30 or 8:30.
It's either 8 or 8:30.
It is
It's
8:30.
8:30.
Let me darken there.
Moon will be out.
Yeah, we don't normally, this is like 3 weeks later in the year, and it's for someone who knows what time the sun goes down.
Yeah, there's conflicts with band and getting everybody.
Yeah,
there,
there's
so.
events too.
Yeah.
Volleyball need to get back, I think. I'm not sure, but.
Are we also going to practice earthquake drills?
Yeah, you might shake it up a little bit. Yeah, that's interesting.
2 in the past few days / tornadoes, so.
Yeah, 10 tornado
What do you
touchdown,
do?
earthquakes here and there.
Stay away from the falling items, right?
Andy's gonna hurt out there.
Yeah, you know, hurricane.
What was that question?
No, I said you're in a hurricane. The question
Yeah.
was, you can start doing earthquake drills too.
I was there for the last one, sitting at a lunch table in the old high school.
All right, Gina, anyone in public participation? Thank you. That takes us to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve, A through E?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, or discussion, sorry, discussion. Roll call,
Mr. Lydic.
Yes.
Mrs. Tresker.
Yes.
Mr. Welch. Yes. Mrs. Foley.
yes. Is that something?
Thank you.
Your court.
I appreciate that. Superintendent's report tonight. Personnel acceptance of resignation. The board is asked to accept the resignation of the employees listed from the position indicated as recommended by the local superintendent building principal. Under B, personnel approval of recall from reduction in force, based upon student needs for specific job classifications and work defined for the 2023-24 school year. The board is asked to approve a recall from reduction in force status and reinstate the non-teaching individual listed below for the position indicated and issue a contract at the status and step noted as recommended by the local superintendent, assistant superintendent. Reduction in force effective since June 1st, 2023. On C, personnel, we have corrective action. The board is asked to approve the corrective action noted below, previously approved on May 16, 2023, as recommended by the local superintendent and chief financial officer. Under D, personnel approval appointment, the board is asked to approve the employment of the individuals listed for the position indicated pending successful completion of required employment paperwork, certification training, and background check as recommended by the local superintendent. Under E, personnel approval appointment curriculum hours, the board is asked to approve the employment of the individual listed to complete the 2023 curriculum work at the rate of pay and for the maximum number of hours indicated as recommended by the local superintendent and assistant superintendent. Under F, personnel approval, appointment curriculum hours, corrective action. Board is asked to approve the corrective action noted previously approved at the June 27, 2023 meeting as recommended by the local superintendent and assistant superintendent. Under G, personnel approval appointment 2023-24 teacher leader. The board is asked to approve the employment of the individuals listed below for the supplemental committee position indicated for the 23-24 school year as recommended by the local superintendent and assistant superintendent. Failure to complete all assigned duties shall result in prorating and or cancellation without pay for the supplemental contract. And I'd like to make a note on the second column for the science teacher leader, that is a $2,000 stipend, not $1,000 stipend. So please make that adjustment. Under H, personnel approval appointment mentors. The board is asked to approve the employment of an individual listed for the position and rate of pay indicated for the 23-24 school year as recommended by the local superintendent and assistant superintendent. I, personnel approval appointment, RE mentors, resident education mentors. The board is asked to approve the employment of individuals listed for the position and rate of pay indicated for the 2023-24 school year, pending successful completion of the resident educator mentor training academy as recommended by the local superintendent and assistant superintendent. And also, I would like you to strike out the second $2,500 rate of pay. That rate of pay, the $2,500 for both of those positions total. That make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Under J, personnel approval appointment 23-24 non-athletic supplemental. The board is asked to approve the individual listed for the 2023-24 non-athletic supplemental noted as recommended by the local superintendent building principal. Under K, approval of extended time. The board is asked to approve the extended days noted as recommended by the local superintendent and assistant superintendent. L, personnel approval of the 23-24 transportation hours. The board is asked to approve the transportation staff contracted hours for the 23-24 school year as recommended by the local superintendent and director of transportation. Under M, personnel approval appointment athletic supplementals. The board is asked to approve the employment of the individuals listed for the summer and 2023-24 athletic supplemental positions and rate of pay indicated pending successful completion of required employment paperwork, certification, training, and background check as recommended by the local superintendent and athletic director. And personnel approval appointment athletic volunteer. The board is asked to approve the individuals listed as a volunteer for the 23-24 sport noted pending successful completion of background check and certification as recommended by the local superintendent and athletic director. O, personnel approval appointment student workers. The board is asked to approve the employment of the students listed for the 2023 position and rate of pay indicated not to exceed 700 hours as recommended by the local superintendent and director of communications. E, personnel approval appointment substitutes. The board is asked to approve the individuals noted for the 23-24 daily substitute positions listed as recommended by the local superintendent and assistant superintendent. Q, 23 through 28, 20% through the CCLC positions rates of pay. The board is asked to approve the CCLC position rates of pay effective the 23-24 school year as recommended by the local superintendent, assistant superintendent, and chief financial officer. And R, 2023-24 substitute rates of pay. The board is asked to adopt the updated substitute rate effective August 14, 2023 as delineated unless otherwise dictated per current negotiated agreements and authorize the chief financial officer to pay the higher daily substitute rate for continuation of service for those substitute employees who continue working in 12-month classifications as recommended by the local superintendent and chief financial officer. And that is Mr. Dewan right there. You'll miss that. S, approval of bus routes 2023-24. The board is asked to approve the 23-24 bus routes, which are subject to change due to forthcoming student enrollment as recommended by the local superintendent and the director of transportation services. D, approval of board policy second reading. The board is asked to adopt the new revised board policy listed as recommended by the local superintendent. And this concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion.
I had a question about the class rank. So So I know it's not on there. I believe it's not on official transcript anymore, correct?
Correct.
So can the students still find out where they are ranked?
Within the class.
Yeah, within the class?
Mr. Priscilla, would you like to answer or would I?
Well, so we've had certain situations where kids applying to a specific scholarship
Mhm.
or. Sometimes the academies will request that information and we work with the student at that point. To provide it. It came as a result, the removal of it came as a result of a committee probably 5-6 years ago, and we looked at the whole Val-Sal setup and how we wanted to recognize. And when you look at class rank, because of like, the recommendation came from the committee because of the, like, you could be 50th, but still be at like 3.9.
Mhm.
So it wasn't necessarily a fair representation of where you stood within the class. So if needed for something specific, we would provide that.
Okay, you just couldn't ask, say,
Yeah, I don't know that we've had anybody ask. I don't know. I have to think that one
How
through.
do you get the information, when they do ask, how do we?
Yeah,
can you explain that?
we can still see it within Infinite Campus.
It would be solely based on GPA,
Yes.
Okay.
Weighted
but
GPA.
weighted GPA.
Yeah.
Okay. So understanding that we were just catching it, but we were aligning things in because we removed the,
right,
Right. Yeah, when we had
technically
changed
we
our
removed it
end
years
of
ago.
year awards
Yeah.
for your class.
okay.
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure a parent or a student, if was curious or wanted to know for college purposes or I guess any other reason.
If
they
there's
can
a
look it up.
specific purpose, then I
Yeah.
think we would support that student.
Okay,
I've never seen it asked on a college. Have you?
Not so much anymore ever.
No, I've never seen it. I mean, probably for about 30 of them, 40, 50 of them. I don't think I've
You
ever
know, I
seen
think
it.
maybe some of the Air Force academies and those things are still offering that. And again, that committee did a very nice job and they looked at a lot of scenarios where kids that would get into that competitive kind of sense of trying to drive their rank up to the top would maybe not do some things in the district that were grade based because they were unweighted that would actually hurt them. And so we thought that would be a poor reason not to take a band or some other non-academic art or some
Non-weighted.
weighted course, because it's gonna hurt them in their ranking. And so that was one of the main reasons we said this is just, it's driving some of our kids to not make best decisions for their experiences.
Well, doesn't it give us an opportunity to have a more well-rounded student? Because it encourages them to take more opportunities in other areas.
Right, the whole system that we designed 5-6 years ago with the committee was designed to get kids involved in the holistic approach versus just focusing on AP or CCP, which are gonna give you the 5-point scale versus a 4-point scale. Get involved in band, take strength and fitness, go join the choir, take a family consumer science course, and, you know, like you said, be well-rounded.
But we still do have pretty rigorous standards for the
Absolutely.
academic achievements
Yeah.
that we get at the end of their senior year, the students of excellence.
Right, the
students of
highest
distinction.
level takes 10 CCP or AP courses, and the next level takes 7, and then your GPA is a factor in there with, you know.
And
So
So there are still motivators for students that want to strive to
Certainly.
achieve.
yeah,
And a lot of our kids, you know, continue to seek out, you know, what was College Credit Plus back then. And then you have absolutely zero control on the level of rigor that those grades are being provided.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and so to rate them on things that we had no control over, I mean, there was a lot of issues. And so again, I commend that committee because I sat in a few of those meetings and it was good discussion, not easy discussion.
I'd love to add to Jesse, Todd ran that committee of the 15 or 20 committee members on it, and he went forward, like, not to names off, like, put scenarios of kids in front of us, of all of the achieved CCP wise, AP wise, curriculum, and said, who is about it for him? And no one selected the same student because the values of we value AP, and we value students that already have associate's degree before they be here, and so the varying degrees that exercise taught us, like, what we do.
Yeah.
And yet kids aren't taking something like bringing the greatest joy in their school day and trying to drive up the GPA. So, you know, what message are we sending?
yeah, no, it's just, you know, my thing was just, I have had conversations and they just wanted to see if they could still have access to that number. And I was explaining the other, you know, things that we have in place now. But I would look into that, and it was coming up today, so it's perfect timing. So that answered my question, which will answer there. We're good to go. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Kretzer.
Yes.
Mr. Welch. Yes. Mrs. Foley.
Yes,
Mr. Laydick.
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Gallant.
Thank you, Madam President. The first item I have is approval of financial reports. The board has asked to approve the financial reports from July 2023 as recommended by the Chief Financial Officer. Item B, Communication Bridge. The board is asked to authorize the superintendent and CFO to enter into an emergency authorization agreement as necessary to replace the transportation district communication bridge at a cost not to exceed $40,000, recommended by the superintendent and CFO. And that's what we put in the board update last week. The number right now is looking like 32,000. It's dependent upon when they could get the lift out here and how many day rental we have on that lift. It has to come from either Michigan or Cincinnati. Is that correct, Jack? Is that
Yeah, they're not sure.
under contracts and agreements? Crossroads, the board is asked to approve the agreement with Crossroads Health for 23-24 short-term student assistance programming and ongoing clinical services at Perry Middle School and Perry High School to be provided for identified students as recommended by the Chief Financial Officer and Director of Student Services. Under contracts and agreements, the board is asked to authorize the CFO to enter an agreement with IGM Copy Products to provide copier equipment, supplies, and services for the aid program as recommended by the Chief Financial Officer and Director of Student Services. Under E, approval expenditure of Vincent Lighting, the board is asked to approve expenditure of $26,611 to Vincent Lighting Systems for building theater stage lighting fixtures, power module as recommended by the Chief Financial Officer and Director of Communications. I've held off on this one as long as I possibly could for Al, but we have a number of quotes. Everybody's referring us back to Vincent to do the work, and Al needs this to be fixed. Under approval of new account, the board is asked to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to establish a class account for the 2031 current 5th grade class for the placement of donations, payments, and fundraiser funds as recommended by the Chief Financial Officer. Acceptance of grant funds, the board is asked to accept the Martha Holden Jennings Foundation grant in the amount of $3,000 and to approve the appropriations of such grant to be placed in Fund 019 Special Class 9024 as recommended by the local superintendent and Chief Financial Officer. The grant will award to Alexis Peter Freeman. That's all I have.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve those items?
Second.
Discussion?
On the funds, the athletic funds, we talk about this every year.
Which one are you looking at?
300 high school athletic fund, pretty far in the
Oh, you're
negative.
talking about the financials.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
So can you tell us again, because we talk about every year, like
These
why?
questions come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, these
okay.
questions always
Yeah.
come up.
So, and this happens in every district I've been in. The revenue in athletics is predicated upon your 5 home games that you get for the football season and whole basketball games. Those are your revenue sports, football being the biggest one. If you have the wrong home games, if you have rainy days, if you have windy days or something like that, and you don't have the crowd, your revenue for the athletic department varies. That's your funding. Athletic boosters subsidize and support certain things, typically for students or individual projects. Your expenses are everything else that happens. It is all your equipment, all your travel, all your game day, all your officials, your ticket takers, your whatever else you have, your supplies, your entry fees, your, for swimming events, there's entry fees, for track events, there's entry fees, there's countless expenses on a day-to-day basis in the athletic department. There's no way, unless you had a 12,000 seat stadium that you filled, not happening in a small town, that you'd be able to offset the revenues to expenses that you have. That happens everywhere. As a result, the Board of Education has to subsidize the operations of that on an annual basis. Or you reduce the number of sports that you're gonna offer to kids.
Yes,
That's the option.
this is for all the things you just mentioned, with referees and stuff like that, and then the good side, I guess, that you pointed out before when we talked about it, was that when we have students that excel and teams that excel and do so well and make it to the class, there's additional costs that are, right, that incur
Right.
that we weren't anticipating necessarily.
Which
We
is
don't
good.
know from your-
Yeah, so if you send, and historically, we send several members of the wrestling team to Columbus.
Mhm.
Well, we have for the state tournament, even if it's a sectional tournament, it's like that, there's cost, there's travel costs, there's hotel costs, there's meal cost. That's an expense.
Right.
And you don't get any revenue out of that, it's being held in Columbus or somewhere else, and so it's just, it's an expense. But it's a benefit of the kids, and that's why we have the program.
Exactly, and fuel costs are up.
And officials, umpires, those all went up.
Those all pretty much doubled the
They
last
all
year.
went up, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you for that explanation, appreciate it. Any other questions? Roll call, please, Mr. Gallant.
Mrs. Trebsker.
Yes.
Mr. Welch. Yes. Mrs. Foley,
Yes,
Mr. Laydick.
Yes.
thank you. Any unfinished business that anyone wants to discuss? New business?
Can I just mention
Yes.
that, welcome Jen.
Yes.
Come to see Next month. Gonna be great, yeah.
I know she is. Is she gonna do the last roll call tonight, or is that you?
She can do it if she wants.
I don't know. Maybe you should do your last roll call.
The parade on Friday.
All right, correspondence and announcement. Congratulations, Jen, first of all. Communications, congratulations to everybody on your first few days of school here. We appreciate everything that everyone's doing to make us a great campus and have so many opportunities for our students. So that's appreciated. And just want to let you know, upcoming events and meetings, regular, scheduled board meeting, the district, well, first will be closed September 4th, which is Labor Day, next Monday. And then our regular board meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 19th here at 5:45 in the Tarbuck Center Conference Room. We may end up adding a work session to that or just have some special presenters.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
Over today.
We may have.
Call me for
Time to do it. It's time to do a Mr. Smith update.
Every year.
Yeah, he comes in every year. Very excited to do so. So, and that's right around the time we thought it'd be appropriate because it's safety week and everything else we're doing in the school year. So it's perfect timing.
Yep.
Yep.
So, Gina, I didn't see anybody come in for public participation. No, thank you. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Hold on.
Mr. Grant,
Do your roll call, Lou.
Mr. Welch. Yes. Mrs. Foley.
Yeah.
Mr. Laydick,
Yes.
Mrs. Trebsker.
Yes. Okay.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.